Hey there everyone, welcome back to another episode of Confronting Evil. They say that twins have an unbreakable bond, but what would happen if one had to try and get along without the other? Well, tonight, Mackenzie will find out. So sit back, relax, and get ready for another episode of Confronting Evil.
The universe has a way of showing you what you need.
Mackenzie spoke to herself, saying the words that Seth had passed along to her before he just up and disappeared on her.
Damn it, Seth. You're the expert with this crap. I'm the good-looking badass. You're the nerdy dweeb. I wish you were here to figure this out.
She growled and flipped back onto her bed, covering her eyes with her arm. Then she heard her phone ring and quickly scrambled up to her bedside table where it was charging in hopes that it was her brother. She was instead disappointed to see Huck's name pop up on her phone.
Hey, Huck.
Mackenzie answered with a depressed sigh.
Well, gee, don't get all excited on my behalf.
Huck spewed sarcasm.
Sorry. I just haven't heard from Seth since he sent me that text. You haven't heard from him, have you, Huck?
Mackenzie then asked.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sure he's fine, though. If he gets in trouble, I'm sure he'll call.
Huck answered her with reassurance.
I guess.
Mackenzie relented.
Anyway, I have a case I need you to handle.
Huck informed her.
Me? Why me? Why don't you do it?
Mackenzie asked.
Well, it's my cousin Tucker.
Huck began before getting interrupted by Mackenzie.
Another cousin? How big is your family exactly?
Mackenzie then questioned.
There's more Bruces than people in the Vatican City. And Tucker and I had a falling out about 3 years back after he got drunk and pissed all over Granny's kitchen, in the stove, on the muffins she just baked. Everything. He blamed it on me.
Huck answered her.
So you don't want to help your cousin because he's an asshole? Damn, Huck. I didn't think you were that petty.
Mackenzie said in a bit of surprise.
No, he doesn't want my help because while he was still drunk, I served him the muffins.
Huck finished up his story.
Yep, I stand by my hypothesis. Damn, Huck.
Mackenzie replied to him.
So, can you give me a hand and go on over there and see what we're dealing with here?
Huck requested.
Yeah, I guess. Send me the directions.
Mackenzie sighed and accepted the case before saying bye to Huck and tapping the screen to end the call. Moments later, her phone buzzed when Huck sent the directions to his cousin's house about half an hour away, causing Mackenzie to grumble. She wanted to find her brother, not deal with another of Huck's redneck cousins.
At least you're still here, beautiful,
Mackenzie said, running a hand along the hood of her beautiful car and down to the driver's side door of the Torino, where she opened it and climbed inside. Always appreciating the relaxing feeling of the classic smell of the car, that is when Seth wasn't ruining it with random scented air fresheners. She did appreciate the satellite radio that he had added in her absence, even though she said she hated it. Mackenzie left at about 3 p.m. and drove the half an hour down the highway until she found the little RV park that Huck had told her about, where she drove through looking at all the people outside. An old woman with curlers in her hair, wearing a tank top and shorts, hanging clothes on a line. A man with a dirty blonde mullet sat on the tailgate of his truck drinking a beer from a can, while a man welded the wheel well of the same truck, his toddler's son standing behind him, full-on watching with no eye protection and no one stopping him. The boy's mother sat in a lawn chair by the front door of a camper, feeding another child formula from a bottle while she smoked a cigarette right over his head.
Please don't let that be the place. Please don't let that be the place.
Mackenzie repeated to herself, hoping that it was a different spot, but was quickly let down when she heard her phone tell her that she had arrived at her destination.
Shit.
She growled to herself with a sigh before climbing out of the Torino beside the camper.
Hi. I'm looking for Tucker.
Mackenzie asked the group outside the camper, which got a response of a whistle from the man with the mullet, followed by him yelling, "Hey, Tuck, get out here!" The door of the camper opened, and Mackenzie turned around expecting to see some bucktooth hick with an overbite and a neckbeard, but instead she found a clean-shaven lumberjack of a man that looked like he came straight out of a Hallmark movie. Mackenzie at first didn't know what to say. Her mouth just hung open at the sight of the absolute hunk of a man. "Yeah, Paul?" the young man then said.
"This young lady here would like to talk to you,"
the mullet-headed man replied. "Hey there, ma'am. I'm Tucker. I'd shake your hand, but I was just out frog gigging with my buddies Jimbo and Reed." The man introduced himself with a twang in his voice, thus snapping Mackenzie out of her trance.
Yep, that's Huck's cousin,
she thought to herself, now reassured that the immediate attraction to him was entirely gone.
"Hi, I'm Mackenzie. Huck gave me a call and..."
Mackenzie began to explain, but was quickly cut off. "I don't want nothing to do with that bad egg. He pissed all over Granny's kitchen," Tucker interrupted.
"It's true,"
the old woman hanging laundry spoke up. "I didn't have no choice but to send him a text for help. There's some strange stuff going on around here at night." Tucker then added,
"It's true. I've seen it all myself,"
the old woman blurted out once more, causing Mackenzie to severely doubt the validity of the case. "For about a month or so, we'd been seeing people lurking around at night. We didn't think much of it until our neighbors' pigs and goats started disappearing. Then, just last week, Granny goes out just after dark to get the clothes off the line, and she sees the craziest thing." "Tell her what you saw, Granny," Tucker informed her.
"It wasn't like nothing I'd ever seen. The man with a bat face. Some devil right out of hell, I tell you. I screamed like a banshee and done ran inside to tell my sons, Barney and Elroy, to get the guns. But when they got out there, the dang thing just up and vanished. It was the scariest thing I'd ever seen."
The old woman explained what she had seen.
"All right, thanks. That's all I needed to know. You guys just stay inside tonight and I'll take care of your Batman problem,"
Mackenzie said, not sure how to react to the obvious vampire infestation.
"Thank you kindly,"
the old woman spoke, looking over her bifocals. Mackenzie walked back to the Torino and climbed inside before letting out a sigh. Huck's relatives were always a colorful bunch of characters, sometimes more than she could take. She knew the area, and she knew of a few locations that vampires could be hiding out in during the day, and one such location stood out to her, an abandoned iron factory that sat in the middle of the small town, a prime location for a vampire hangout. It was getting late in the day, and she figured that if she was hoping to do this, then she'd better get it done quickly, before the sun went down, and made her job infinitely more difficult. Mackenzie pulled the Torino into the overgrown parking lot behind the old foundry, being careful not to drive over any broken glass or debris in the parking lot. The place looked like a junkyard. Piles of stacks of tires filled the lot, along with the occasional junked vehicle. She parked the car, hidden away behind the building, climbed out, and went around to the trunk to grab a few tools of the trade, which she tucked into her clothing before closing the trunk and slowly making her way inside the old foundry. The place was large and empty, and the smelter had long since been dismantled and removed. Now, the building was primarily used to store hundreds and hundreds of old tires, all stacked and piled inside and out, making the large room she was now in feel very claustrophobic. The place was dark, but still too much sunlight came through the broken windows that lined the building for it to be a safe place for a vampire to hide in. Then she spotted it, a closed-off room at the far end of the building. Slowly she approached the closed door and swung it open, holding a wooden stake in one hand and a flashlight in the other. She peered inside. There it was, the sleeping vampire. He was a hideous thing, bald, with empty veins coursing through his flesh. A face that only a mother could love, crunched in and squashed like a bat-like pug dog, and just like every vampire before him, He sat with his chest covered, with his legs hunched in a fetal position in the dark corner of the room. Slowly, Mackenzie approached the sleeping vampire and raised the stake into the air, ready to strike.
It fell into our trap.
A man's voice spoke from behind her, but before she could react, she found herself pinned against the wall, a hand gripping her throat. The sleeping vampire was not sleeping at all. He was bait, and now his hand was firmly cutting off her airway. She raised the stake and attempted to strike her attacker, but it was quickly knocked out of her hand.
Jeez.
Mackenzie gasped for air.
Aren't you gonna buy a girl a dinner first?
She joked, trying in vain to pry the hand from her neck.
Is it alone?
The deep voice of the vampire holding her asked.
We expected the others, but I guess this will have to do for now.
A third voice spoke up from behind her, this one female.
So, this is what the council hired us to take care of? I thought it would pose more of a challenge. How disappointing.
The first man's voice spoke again from the door to her side.
Well, at least it'll serve as a good meal.
The vampire with his hand around her throat spoke. Mackenzie could smell the putrid irony smell of blood on his breath.
Maybe we can use it as bait. It's like the universe itself wants us to win.
The female bloodsucker hissed.
You know, I'm right here.
Mackenzie growled, not liking how the vampires were talking about her.
It has spunk.
The female vampire spoke again.
It smells rotten.
The vampire gripping her throat said, giving her a big sniff along the neck.
You know, you don't smell so good yourself, blue cheese boy.
Mackenzie managed to gasp out, a hand still around her neck.
Now, Bertram, let's not play with our food. Eat it and get it over with.
The male vampire by the door spoke again.
With pleasure, Alton.
The beast growled, before his hand then shifted, tilting Mackenzie's head to the side to allow access to her neck before leaning down towards it. But while the lot of them were talking, Mackenzie used it as a distraction to retrieve the Beretta from her belt.
Not today, Bert.
Mackenzie roared as she lifted her arm and fired a bullet into the painted windows at the back of the building, where the setting sun blasted through the shattered window to illuminate the attacking vampire. The vampire reared back, attempting to escape the sunlight, but it was too late. The creature was engulfed with flames from the side. Fire whirls erupting from his eye sockets and mouth. He dropped Mackenzie and fell to the floor, slowly turning to ash as the fires of hell burned him away from the inside. Mackenzie then fired off a few more shots, breaking more windows and allowing the sunlight to pour in, hoping to torch more vampires. But the remaining bloodsuckers were unfazed by the sunlight. But now that Mackenzie could get a better look at them, she could see that they were wearing some kind of protective military gear. Gas masks worn to protect from harmful substances were now worn to stop the rays of the sun.
We're a bit smarter than that. Take it out, Celestial.
The remaining male vampire spoke, commanding the female bloodsucker to sweep through. She ran toward Mackenzie, ducked down, arms extended with a knife in each hand. Quickly she slashed, but Mackenzie managed to dodge out of the way just in time, giving her an opening to fire off a shot into the vampire's thigh. She screamed in pain from the blessed silver that had just gone through her flesh, giving Mackenzie enough time to climb up a stack of tires and escape out one of the broken windows. Outside, she rolled down a pile of old tires and landed roughly on the dirt before scrambling to her feet and booking it towards the Torino to escape, but she was cut off by the male vampire raising a gun to take aim at her. Quickly she jumped to the side behind a stack of tires to take cover. Bullets began to fly as she returned fire back at him. 3 shots were fired from Mackenzie's Beretta before she was out of ammo and needed to reload, but shortly after she had pushed the new clip into her gun, she heard the sound of the vampire attacking her fall to the ground. Mackenzie was shocked. She just blindly fired in defense and did not aim and did not even look. She just put her hand out and started shooting, but with some stroke of luck, one of the blessed bullets tore through the vampire's face, dropping him to the ground. But Mackenzie knew this wasn't enough, so quickly she escaped from cover and ran to the fallen vampire, where she delivered a stake through the beast's chest, causing the fires of hell to erupt from the gaping wound in his face that was left over from her bullet. She stood and watched as the fire overtook the creature at her feet. expecting the third vampire to make her move, and like clockwork, attack came soon after. A knife flew from the shadows like a bullet, slicing through the edge of Mackenzie's thigh, returning the favor that she had delivered to Celestia. The bloodsucker then charged the wounded Mackenzie, who fell onto her back, and used her feet to kick the vampire over top of her, which was followed by a metallic crunch sound as the vampire impaled herself on top of some old, rusted junk. Mackenzie quickly climbed to her feet and pointed her Beretta at the woman's head before she could pull herself off of the debris.
You won,
the woman gasped.
Perhaps I was wrong. I see now that it's you the universe willed to be victorious,
she said, relenting her loss.
Who sent you?
Mackenzie asked, getting right to the point.
I guess it really doesn't matter now, does it?
The vampire began.
The Council of the Ancients, a group of 10 vampire lords. There were 13, but due to recent events involving you and yours, their numbers have dwindled.
The vampire spoke, a piece of wrecked metal still sticking through her torso.
So, how much are they paying you to take us out?
Mackenzie interrogated further.
Pay?
Celestia chuckled.
There's no pay, only better treatment. You see, we are thralls, slaves to the Council. If we do well, we feast. If we fail, we starve.
The vampire explained.
Why don't you just leave?
Mackenzie then asked.
If we leave, they'll hunt us,
Celestia said, looking to the side, ashamed to admit the truth. Mackenzie paused for a moment, still aiming the gun at the woman's head.
Not if they think you're already dead.
Mackenzie finally spoke up after a long silence as she began to return her gun to her belt, offering the vampire a hand to help her off of the metal spike where she was impaled. The vampire hesitated, but in the end she took Mackenzie's hand and lifted herself up off the metal post with a wet slurping sound and a grunt.
Why didn't you kill me?
Celestia asked.
No one deserves to be a slave for eternity,
Mackenzie told her.
How do you know I just won't come after you again?
Celestia questioned.
You're free now. Is that really what you want to do with your freedom?
Mackenzie asked the vampire.
No, I guess it's not,
Celestia replied with a smile.
There is one catch, though. No more eating people. Only animals from now on, or get a job at a blood bank or something. Deal?
Mackenzie said, holding her hand out once more.
Deal,
the vampire agreed, happy that that part of her life was over.
I guess the universe was looking out for us both today. Thank you, Mackenzie Beretta.
Celestia smiled and sighed as the sun set and gave way to darkness.
You're welcome. Stay safe and be good, or else you'll have to deal with me.
Mackenzie smiled at her new friend before turning and walking back to the Torino. She climbed in and thought about the wild day that she had just had. She'd made a new friend, a vampire no less. Seth would lose his mind if he heard that.
I wish Seth was here to see this crazy day,
Mackenzie thought to herself. She pondered about how she had fought 3 vampire assassins and somehow managed to emerge victorious. Seth would be proud of her, and so would her mom.
Maybe Celestia was right,
she thought. Maybe the universe really was looking out for her. She had defeated 3 vampire lords, all by herself after all. Then Mackenzie's eyes went wide as the revelation hit her like a freight train. 3 demons that hunted Elijah. 3 vampires that hunted herself. In fact, the number 3 had been popping up a lot in her life, and she hadn't really noticed until that moment. But now, the thought had entered her mind. The truth was revealed to her. If her theory was correct, the answer was in the Bible after all. The 3 wise men. If she and Seth were able to find an angel or another biblical figure, then perhaps it was not beyond the realm of possibility that the universe was telling her to visit the 3 wise men of the Bible.
I figured it out.
Mackenzie said with a happy smile.
I got the 3 B's. Brains, beauty, and badassery. I'm the total package. Go me!
Mackenzie celebrated herself to herself for a short while before realizing what she had to do. and excitedly exclaiming,
I gotta call Seth.
Well, although one half of the dynamic duo can certainly hold their own by themselves, it'll be interesting to see if Seth answers the call. And I hope you answer the call next month when Confronting Evil returns.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.